If I say the word focus, I say the word trauma. You might not understand how those fit together, but after this week's show, you will. Now, there is a new effort that's going to be coming to a community near you. And before I introduce my guest, I want to take a look at a story that aired a couple weeks ago on KDKA's News to introduce this program. The number of homicides in Allegheny County so far this year are more than 50. 50 crime scenes, 50 families, 50 times a community is ripped apart.
I think it's important that everybody understand that trauma is probably the most significant issue that we as a community face.
So Focus Pittsburgh, a community-based organization, just received a grant from the County Health Department to send teams of volunteers into communities as soon as a violent incident happens. They will provide a calm and safe place for the innocent victims, those affected directly or indirectly.
Once they arrive at the scene, they're going to canvass the immediate area to let people know that they're there. We will have a number that people could call if they don't feel comfortable coming onto the vehicle.
That vehicle will be an RV just like this one, equipped with a children's area, a place for people to talk about their feelings or just sit and be quiet to reflect.
Listening is the foundation of everything that we're going to do. To be present to someone is to give space to what they're experiencing in a non-judgmental way.
Which means a lot to someone who has just been traumatized.
It's like everybody's staring at you, but nobody wants to help you.
And now joining me here in the studio is Reverend Paul Abernathy of Focus Pittsburgh. Welcome to the show.
It's so good to be with you, Lynn. Thank you.
You know, as I watched that piece, now that aired a couple weeks ago, I said about 50 homicides in the city. I think it's gone up 8 between the city and the county since we did that story. So the need for this service is there.
It's absolutely right, and I think in our communities it's important for people to know how brokenhearted people are and how people in our communities really desire to see an end to this violence. And the issue is that people very often don't know what they can do to help end the violence, what they can do to help, foster healing in our communities. But that desire is there, and that desire is exactly what we as community members need to tap into so that we can take action, with the right training, with the right organization, with the right support. We can actually go out and be the change that we are all seeking, hoping, and praying for.
So when a violent incident happens in the community, the residual effect is far greater than probably most people realize.
A lot of times when we think about violence in our communities, we think very much about the victims, the immediate victims of that violence. But really in our communities, when violence happens, it ripples through every corner of the community. People are so greatly affected by this. I mean, there are certainly stories of mothers who teach their children that when they're watching TV to lie flat on the ground so that they don't get hit by stray bullets. We know that there are many people who are victims of the violence who were not the intended target of the violence. We know that many people live in fear, and I think everybody knows somebody who was lost to gun violence. Everybody knows somebody who has lost somebody to gun violence. I have a really good friend that we were the same age. When he turned 35, he had lost his 40th friend to gun violence.
Wow.
And so this is something that is very deep in our community, the trauma that remains from these incidents. And I think it's also important to understand that this gun violence also takes place in the context of so much more trauma that's been happening across our communities for generations. I mean, hunger is a form of trauma, abuse is a form of trauma, neglect, addiction is a form of trauma, racism is a form of trauma. And so we look at what really is happening in our communities, what has happened across several generations. We can say that this gun violence is a symptom of this multi-generational complex trauma we've experienced for too long.
So you got this grant, you got this RV, you're going to go into the communities you know what, let's do this. Let's take a commercial break. Then when we come back, we'll continue this conversation.
Sounds
we only
good.
had a little bit of time before the break. We're going to take a commercial break. We're going to tell you how you can get involved with this effort as well. So don't go away when the Lynn Heath's Free Wing Show continues.